And welcome back to the Hannity primaries. Now, still to come, Herman Cain tonight. But first, the final installment of my interview with Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann. How would you grade Barack Obama on foreign policy? We talk a lot lately specifically about his economic policy, his record debt deficits, et cetera, Obamacare. If you had to give him a grade on foreign policy, what would it be?
It'd be an abject failure. Because he's not only, I think, weakened us, but I think that he has set in motion events that could mean for very disastrous consequences. And let me give you just a few. We're seeing the stretch of Iran's influence in the very unstable region of the Middle East in a greater way than we've ever seen before. Iran is already a friend of Syria. We know that. They've already had a very strong presence in Lebanon with Hezbollah. But what we saw is that our greatest ally in the Arab world was Mubarak in Egypt. And President Obama, quite frankly, sat on his hands when our ally needed American help. And Barack Obama chose not to help him. As a matter of fact, other things, I think, were put at play. What's happened since then? Now we see Iran coming in to be Egypt's best friend. For about 30 years, Egypt did not have diplomatic relations with Iran, and they actually had open relations with Israel, more so than probably any other Arab nation. Now we're seeing the door slam on Israel's face, and instead the door is opening on Iran's face. We're seeing the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. This is not a good thing. Now Libya. This is worse than what we had seen before. Secretary of Defense Gates said of Libya that Gaddafi had not attacked the United States nor posed a threat to the United States. He also said there is no vital national U.S. interest in Libya. He also said he didn't know what a United States military goal or objective would be. But worse, we don't know who the opposition forces are in Libya. What does that mean? The only evidence we've seen is that al-Qaeda of North Africa may have a presence, as well as Hezbollah. What if, Sean, we are in the process of helping al-Qaeda of North Africa gain access to...
A State Department said it.
Well...
A State Department said that there were al-Qaeda in the rebel forces.
Well, that's right. And the United Kingdom has said the same. So if that's the case, and they gain not only a toehold in Libya, but they gain access to the oil revenues, think of what that would mean. What possible vital national interest could we have to have al-Qaeda of North Africa have a sustainable source of revenue in oil revenues to fund worldwide global terror? That's what I think the foolishness is of Barack Obama's
move. You have two things emerging that you're talking about. You have now the Muslim Brotherhood, which said at the very beginning, when everyone was in Tahrir Square, get prepared for war with Israel, now has aligned with the military. Now getting closer ties to Iran.
That's right.
And then in Libya, you have Muammar Gaddafi, who the president of the United States said must go, still in power.
And so who would be the new power?
Well, and the rebels connected to al-Qaeda.
That's right. In all likelihood, and we've already heard, this is from open source documents, we're reading that already al-Qaeda is saying take advantage of the instability in the Middle East, move in, now's the time. Israel is at greater risk now than in any time in our lifetime.
What is the greatest, biggest national security threat facing the United States of America today?
Well, according to Admiral Mullen, it would be the national debt. I think the greatest national security threat is a nuclearized Iran, because we know what Iran's intentions are. Iran is seeking to be the hegemon, or the dominant party in the Middle East region. They're doing a pretty darn good job right now, I would say, of extending their sphere of influence. This is frightening in that we know that they could be very close to being a nuclearized nation. If that's the case, they have a very well-stated position, which is the destruction of Israel and ultimately the destruction of the United States. But also keep in mind, Sean, that Barack Obama was able to find in his first budget one area he would be willing to cut: missile defense. He also said to the Poles and also to the Czechs, we will not be building missile defense capability in those two nations. If you take away that first round of missile defense and perhaps weaken or take away a second round of missile defense, there's usually 3 levels, then we find the United States very vulnerable from nuclear attack.
Do you think it is so severe a threat that the United States, like Israel, needs to consider taking out these nuclear facilities in short order? Because we're told it could be, within the year that they might be able to develop nuclear weapons. So is this something for a long-term national security interest that needs to be done, one way or the other?
It is a very, the situation now has been highly complicated because of what the president has done. It wouldn't be what it was years ago when this happened, when when there was efforts taken to take another facility out. This is a very different situation now. It isn't just one location. We could be looking at multiple locations, and they aren't necessarily out in plain sight either. This is a very difficult situation. There's a number of areas where we need to be very serious and very aggressive, but Iran as a nuclearized power is not good for the world, certainly not for Israel and the United States.
Is that a bigger threat than radical Islam terrorism, or do you see it?
Oh, they're virtually one of the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're virtually one of the same, and that's the issue right now, Sean. There is a potential supposedly for democratization in the Middle East. The greater likelihood, I fear, right now, is that we could be looking at Sharia-compliant terrorism getting the dominant position.
So you've talked a lot about the Middle East and North Africa and Iran specifically. Is that as big a threat? Do you think they're preparing, launching, plotting, scheming to once again attack the United States? And will they launch it from there? Or are you concerned about the domestic Islamic threat that may exist here already? I interviewed once Michael Chertoff.
It's here already.
Michael Chertoff said that he had no doubt that there were Islamic terrorists in the United States, and there were cells here right now today.
Well, and we know and there's a direct link to both of them. Look at Major Hassan. He was tied to radicalized clerics, and Major Hassan was the Fort Hood massacre that had occurred. And we've seen other instances here in the United States as well. Right here in New York City, we've seen that with the Times Square bomber. And we know that there are other efforts underway. Recently, the FBI foiled something down in Dallas, Texas. This is all open source documents, again, where this information comes. So yes, we know that there's a radicalized there's a radicalized element here in the United States as well. And we have to take this threat seriously. Here's the other thing. We have to take off political correct glasses as we're looking at this situation. We have to call it for what it is. It is Sharia-compliant terrorism, and we need to root it out, not only in the United States, but we need to call it for what it is in the Middle East as well.
And coming up, he has never held public office before and doesn't have much money in his campaign war chest, but Herman Cain says that he has what it takes to defeat the Anointed One in 2012. He joins me next to explain, well, how he plans to pull all that off.